Section 3.2, Truth Tables, Video 2. In the homework for 3.2, there's another type of problem that involves the hierarchy of logical connectives. You're given a statement and you're asked to evaluate it based on specific truth values for the simple statements it includes. For example, let's evaluate the statement, the negation of the conjunction of R and the negation of Q, if and only if, biconditional, P disjunction Q. If P and R are both true and Q is false. It kind of looks like a truth table setup, but it's a lot simpler. This is similar to evaluating an expression in algebra. For example, and this is not what this problem is asking, if I said evaluate, x squared plus 3yx, if x equals 1 and y equals 4, it's a pretty straightforward problem. You would change all the x's to 1s and all the y's to 4s. Then you would use the order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, to work it out. Exponents would go first, 1 squared is 1, multiplication would go next, left to right, 3 times 4 is 12, times 1 is 12, and then addition would happen last and you would get 13. It's kind of the same thing here, but instead of variables and numbers, we have statements and truth values. So how would you do this one? Well, pretty much the exact same way. Start by rewriting the statement and replacing each statement, each simple statement, with its truth value. So I'm going to write this, but every time I see R, I'm going to write T for true. Every time I see Q, I'm going to write F for false. Every time I see P, I'm going to write T for true. So here we go. Negation, parentheses. We're replacing R with true. Conjunction, negation. We're replacing Q with false, close parentheses. Biconditional, open parentheses. We're replacing P with true, disjunction, and we're replacing Q with false. Now, just like when you're completing a truth table, we have to determine the correct order and apply the rules accordingly. So where would we go first in this mess? According to the hierarchy of logical connectives, we would go inside the parentheses. I'm going to pause for a second and recommend that you pause the video and see if you can complete the truth values all the way to the end based on the hierarchy of logical connectives and the rules for each connective. So go ahead and pause the video if you want to give it a try. All right, either you paused the video and you got an answer, or you didn't pause it and you're just waiting for me to work it out. That's okay. So where do we go first? The hierarchy of logical connectives said go inside parentheses first. We have two. They're not inside each other, so we can do them left to right. Let's go to the first parentheses and look inside of it. We have a conjunction and we have a negation. Between those two, the negation happens first, the conjunction happens second. Okay? That finishes that parentheses, but we still have this one over here. There's only one connective in it, so it's going to happen next. Third. That finishes both parentheses, leaving a negation and a biconditional. In the hierarchy of logical connectives, negation takes precedence. So it will be next, it will be fourth, and then last is biconditional. So that's the order in which we're going to evaluate it. Now, when you evaluate part of an expression, you leave the rest of it alone. So we're going to start by evaluating this negation. The negation of false is true. And everything else is left alone. That's tough. I don't know why I made this an A. I know that conjunctions is the symbol for the word and, because it looks like an A, but it should just be the A without the line. All right, what was second? It was the conjunction. So now we evaluate the conjunction. And again, with the exception of negation, which only has one statement to the right of it, every other connective has statements on both sides. So when I evaluate this conjunction, I need to evaluate it with both truth values on either side. The rule for conjunction is it's true only when all of it is true. Well, all of this is true, which means the conjunction is also true. We didn't do anything else, so everything else gets brought back down. The negation, the parentheses, we did this, the parentheses, the biconditional, the parentheses, T, disjunction, F, close parentheses. At this point, the first parentheses is no longer required because there's only one thing inside of it. And let's move this negation a little bit closer. Okay? So we just did the conjunction, which was second. Third was the disjunction, so now we go over here. And some of you might be thinking, couldn't we have done the disjunction at the same time that we did the conjunction over here? And the answer is yes, because these two don't interfere with each other. They could have been done simultaneously. But I digress. The rule for disjunction is it's false only when all of it is false. This is not all false, which means the disjunction is not false. So it's true. Bring down everything else. The negation, this T, which I'm going to make black to emphasize that it didn't change, and the biconditional. Fourth, because we just did third, fourth is the negation, and then fifth will be the biconditional. I think we can do both of these right away. The negation of true is false, so let's just cross that out and put an F. And now let's evaluate the biconditional. The rule for biconditional is it's true if both halves are the same. Both halves are not the same, so this is not true. So the answer is false. I know that's a lot of work just to get one or two answer choices, false or true. And in the homework, I couldn't stop you from just guessing one and hoping you get lucky, and then trying it again later in case you missed it. But you know on your test, if I give you a question like this, I am going to ask you to show your work. So actually try them in the homework instead of just guessing and hoping you get it correct.